We are good to go.
Recording in progress.
All right, I'd like to call a meeting to order. Do the roll call. Anderson, present. Meister.
Present.
Christensen.
Here, present.
Hoffman. Here. We have a quorum.
Yes.
Invite the audience and the board, commission to stand to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then just a friendly reminder, speak into the mics. It makes my job doing minutes a lot easier.
Do you have anything to say to anybody who might be calling in?
Are we on to,
Well, we're just going to do the
we'll go
start the meeting.
to 5. and
Okay,
check.
all right. We have an agenda in front of us. Are there corrections or additions to the agenda? Motion to accept the agenda as printed?
A motion to accept the agenda?
A second? Second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Minutes from the January 20th meeting. Nice job, Jessica. I read them this afternoon and caught the spirit of the meeting. That was kind of a lengthy discussion we had.
Wow.
I think it was apparent in the minutes.
It was, and you know, I thought you caught it all. So, corrections, additions to those minutes. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
The second?
I'll make a second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Open forum.
Okay, so it does look like we have 7 participants, 2 of which are Jess Bizey and Kevin Mattson. So Jess is the interim city administrator, so she'll be doing a presentation momentarily. And Councilmember Nichols just joined.
Okay.
And Kevin Mattson is the Public Works Director, and he's also on there. So if anyone other than those folks would like to raise their hand, it looks like we do have someone who has a comment. Give me just a second. All right. Catherine Drivas, if you want to speak, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is
I'm hoping we
Catherine
can hear
Drivas,
you.
and I live at 6747 Old
not.
Sturbridge Drive here in Corcoran.
Truthfully, I've never
And
had anyone
my-
actually want to speak.
Oh, and am I on?
Are you talking?
Yes.
Shows that you are.
I am. I unmuted.
You know anything about that? Give us just, oh, it sounds like everyone can hear her on Zoom.
Okay.
That's promising.
You just have to plug it and listen through the computer.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Yeah, turn it way up.
All right, now try and speak.
Okay. Catherine Drivas? Got it?
That's too bad. That sounded like
Yes.
something.
That was because I touched it.
Oh.
Yeah. Headphones.
We should have closed
Okay, now try.
captioning.
Nope, still nothing. Maybe that one? All right, let's try one more time. No, still nothing.
Should you call us on the phone?
I don't know who should call.
Cell phone, you can call my cell phone.
I have no idea. Oh, and this stuff. Hi. How do we get her onto the?
It's tricky.
All right, Catherine, do you want to try one more time? Nope. We tried that. That didn't work.
I'll do it.
That's already on.
Oh, it was muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. Yay.
Me.
Yes.
Can you hear Catherine as well?
Yep, but
Perfect.
I'm going to mute.
Thanks, all right. Are you ready?
Yes, go ahead. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
here we go. Catherine Dreva, 6747 Old Sturbridge Drive. And I have a question that was sparked by reading through tonight's materials. I'm wondering if Corcoran has a policy on naming the parks and trails in Corcoran. At the last meeting, I know that Jessica Christensen Buck referred to the open space park east of Old Sturbridge as Ravinia Open Space. And I'm just wondering if there is indeed a policy on that. I think as more and more development comes in, named developments come in, I think the city needs to be careful about naming those places after the developments. To me, that seems that it excludes the rest of the city. And so I'm just wondering if there's a policy, and my opinion is that they should be named, these parks and these open spaces should be named after the natural area they're in, to reflect the natural surroundings, to reflect perhaps the wildlife in that area, or to reflect Corcoran's history. And we were kidding around in my neighborhood about how that open space area should be called Barred Owl Woods. It's a mouthful. Don't do it. Because that's what we hear right now.
Sounded good.
Are the owls. And so I was just wondering about that, and I just think it's something to think in the future. You know, linear trail is great, but you know, then we have City Park, and we have the Community Park, which I just always call the ball fields. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say, and I wanted to point out, it's always made me chuckle, but I've never commented on it. On that 2040 comp plan showing the parks, that open space park to the east of Old Sturbridge, where that circle is, it just encompasses, you know, my house and the neighbors and, you know, several other people. The circle is a wee bit off, needs to move just a bit to the east, unless you want my house. Because there are some days I may be willing to give you my house. So anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Catherine. Those are good points. Just to answer a couple of questions, the circles on the map are search areas. They're intended to be general as opposed to taking your house or outside somebody's bedroom window or any sort of, you know, and so it is just a general indication of the kind of area we would like. The neighborhood park in Ravinia is called Wildflower Park, and it's because it's on Wildflower Way. And then, so in some sense, the name of the park helps people identify it, where it is. But otherwise, I think there is no formal policy of how we name parks. I think history is showing that naming it after a person is subject to some difficulty, because one never knows what's going to happen to somebody's good family name. So
That's
So,
why we
but-
steered clear of that.
You know, a good name for a park is really important because it sets the tone for the park and for the community. So absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
All right.
All right,
If anyone else is interested in speaking, I think we have it figured out at this point, so you just have to raise your hand and we can get you unmuted. All right, I don't see anyone.
all right, thank you. All right, presentations.
So we are going to start with Jess Bizey. She's the interim city administrator. Give me just a second to get her onto the screen so everyone can enjoy a visual as well. I lost you. This is another thing that we don't normally do, so.
And if you're not able to, Jess, it's just fine, I can talk. You don't have to see my face right now. I'm at home right now with a little boy on isolation, so we're, living in the wonderful times that are.
There you are. Well,
Maybe not.
Several times.
nice graphic.
There we go.
We don't need to see me in relative to Jess. I can just talk if you guys are comfortable with that.
Well, we'll go like this.
Okay,
Everyone at home
Right.
can see us, but we can see you in here.
yeah.
Great, and everyone at home can see me if they're on the Zoom call, because I'm on the Zoom call, so we're good. Wonderful, thanks, Parks and Trails Commission, thank you so much for having me, and I've never actually attended besides meeting the Parks and Trails Commission when I first was hired. I haven't come in for a presentation, so I thought I'd keep it really brief and just say hi and let you know that we have a lot going on in the community between the city administrator search, a lot of different things coming up, a lot of different developments. We've got the Northeast District Design Guidelines open house coming up on the 15th. On the 24th of March, we have 2 concept plans for some industrial sites. So there's a lot of exciting things happening in Corcoran, and we're excited for 2022. And on February 24th, we'd like to invite all of you to come in if you're able. I had sent out a save the date on a joint commission work session just to kind of have a meet and greet with council and the commissions to outline the goals for the year and to discuss any thoughts that the commissions have, and then we'll have, of course, the annual reports by commissions. So those are some of the exciting upcoming things. We do have elections this year as well, so lots of exciting things happening in Corcoran, and we're excited to be a part of it. So I'll be open for any questions that the commission might have.
Do you want to do those questions that I sent? Or?
I don't have them up, but Jess, do you have the questions that?
I have them, yes. Yeah, give me just 1 second here. One of them was related to elections, and so the questions that were sent over was elections. Are we ready for elections this year? And we are. So we have 2 elections, August 9th and November 8th. And so the August 9th election happens to be the primary election for all state offices, so that'll be party specific, so you'd vote for folks in one party in any of the 4 major political parties, and then we'd also have then general election day, which is going to be November 8th. I'd note that we'll still have options available for voting before election day. We've seen that become very popular. Last election, we had 57% of our voters voted before election day, so we anticipate that being a major item this year as well. The League of Women Voters has reached out to city staff to start planning the candidate forums for our elections. Right now, we have one special election for a 2-year seat, and then we'll have 2 other 2-year seats and the 4-year council member seats and the mayor's seat. And I apologize, my little 3-year-old just walked in the room. The other question was related to the city manager duties and how we're faring taking those on. And right now, we have a great team who's helping us with making sure we're getting all of our duties done, as well as we do have a consultant come in with human resource items. And then we do have an executive search firm who's helping with that for the city administrator. So we hope to have someone on board fully by March 25th is the date of interviews, and then we're hoping to have someone on board.
Great, thank you. I just have one other question, and that's concerned, there's not much that keeps me up at night, but once in a while I do think about the possibility that Corcoran's computer system could be hacked, and that the city could just kind of freeze up, and I'm just wondering how our preparations for that are, how secure you're feeling with our data systems.
Yeah, so we actually work with the BCA to make sure we're BCA compliant. Matt could probably talk a little bit more about all of the requirements that we have for making sure that our criminal justice data is protected, but we do have firewalls and a variety of measures that we take. We do have our IT service do some things like threat assessments and things like that, but not familiar with the particular security items that we have. I think we'll talk to that a bit.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very reassuring. Other questions for Jessica?
I think we should let her go.
I think.
Sorry about that. Being at home thing makes it a little more complicated. Of course, they've been great and haven't got to make sure a half hour in. When I get on the call, gotta have some fun with mom. So.
Yep, they're done that.
Thank you, Jessica.
Well, thank you all, and I'm here for any questions. Anytime that you'd want to talk, let me or the other department heads know. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you all for serving. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm removing Jess and adding Kevin.
Dad, let's see how much he does.
Okay. I think Public Works was next.
Yep, yes. Mm-hmm. Hi, Kevin.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can.
All right. Well, thanks for the invitation to come speak with you. I'll try to keep it relatively brief, touch on a couple things, and then be open for questions as well. Some of the items that are coming at us are in the Public Works Department, particularly related to parks, would be, we're taking on a lot more park areas, so we're probably more in the planning stages in a lot of those areas, so that's exciting. And I know some of our internal goals are to move those further in implementation, such as the City Park project in downtown, the Boardwalk project up in Bellwether, the Linear Park by St. Therese, and some of the park natural areas with Cook Lake. More and more, I think every year I come to you and say, this is the year we're going to accept trails in some of these new developments, and we've yet to get to that hurdle with the developers where we actually accept these trails. Again, I don't see how we don't absorb trails for the next winter maintenance season. With basically Ravinia fully built out, I believe the developers will start focusing on some of those closeout items that will allow us to take that on. That's good and bad because we still have to, basically learn our systems, learn how we're going to maintain them. We have started planning and basically planning for different types of equipment and different applications to be able to maintain those. So more conversations to come on that type of stuff, but that will be more part of our winter maintenance package and even summer maintenance package that we have to plan for. As it relates more to the utilities, We are in the process of designing our water supply system in northeast Corcoran, as you may be aware with some of the conversations on well and tower siting. Where that stands today is we have purchased what we're calling our water treatment plant site, which also has municipal well number 1, so that's off of County Road 116 on the east side of the road, north of Hunter's Ridge. And so that's where the water treatment plant will be, as well as municipal well number 1. With Bellwether Park, we are planning like a municipal well number 2 at some point in the future, so there will be a small well house there. And there were conversations about that potentially being a water tower or water storage, elevated storage site or underground storage site. And that has not been finalized. Council recently has directed us to look at an alternative site. We are working on evaluating that and likely presenting something to the council at the work session on March 10th for a site over in the northwest quadrant of County Road 30 and 116 by the Hope Community Church. And so no council decision on that yet, but it's trending towards that might be a suitable site, and so we'll likely make a decision or get some direction from council here in the coming month on that. Besides that, staffing and employee retention is a high priority. We're kind of taking on a tidal wave of new work and new roads, and I think the team's doing an excellent job. And but we just, we have to keep who we got. It's a super competitive, interesting world these days, and so that's one of our priorities that we're advocating for, to keep everything running smoothly. So with that, I'll turn it over to you folks for any questions you might have on anything I mentioned or any other topics.
Kevin, as far as the maintenance of the trails, have you spoken to other cities in the area of what kind of equipment you would need for upkeep and, how much?
Yep, we Pat and Brandon connect with the neighboring communities regularly, and we have focused on those conversations. We are using Three Rivers as a guide in some of their plans to make sure we're in alignment with them. They're kind of the MnDOT of the trails. We always, they have kind of been through it, and we're trying to not reinvent the wheel. And it's a balance between what we have and where they are, but it's a good resource for us to reach out to. Trail maintenance really comes down to a lot of different things, and it's a lot of different pieces of equipment, right? So if it's a light dusting, one piece of equipment works better than if it's a heavy wet snow. And so, what we've learned is you really kind of have to have a suite of different devices and different technologies, and we understand it's a balance. We can't have it all at once. So we're just really looking for versatile equipment, versatile attachments that work both summer and winter, and just so we kind of cross-use everything as we kind of built our suite of equipment in our fleet. So, whether it's a broom, whether it's a plow truck, whether it's a tractor with different attachments, with a blower, we're going to need it all, and we're just going to have to do it trial by ear and what works with our routes. We'll have to establish a policy on, which routes go first and how we function and what comes first. And so we've had preliminary conversations of all that. And, quite frankly, after the first season, we might have to adjust it all because it is a little bit of a lesson learned type approach. So I think we're well positioned, and I think we'll be able to serve it well, but there'll be future conversations on that, and we'll lean on you folks from what you're hearing from the community on, where we should adjust and where we're succeeding and where we're failing and those types of things. So your input will be critical on what you're hearing.
Okay, thank you. That's excellent.
Bill, Alicia, questions? You're good? I guess I just have one question for you, Kevin, that is concerning our salt usage. That's been in the news a lot lately, and I'm wondering how our salt usage is this year compared to last year, compared to other cities nearby, if we have any information on that.
Good question. we don't necessarily track that on a volume basis, so I can't give you specifics. I think this year, the winter season has been a little milder to date, so I think we're probably trending down on that. And again, we have a lot of gravel roads, so we don't really salt those roads. So, as we convert to paved roads, the salt will increase. But we send our staff to trainings. We have equipment. There'll probably be opportunities to, keep up with technology as technology gets more effective that we'll have to monitor as we progress. But I think we're doing what we should be doing. Always something to be mindful of. Some of the new permits that are coming towards us have requirements that we'll have to, apply to. It's certainly an area of focus in that kind of water resources environmental world. So I think it's a balance of public safety and the environment certainly, and we try to, get trained and use our best judgment on how we apply it, and it certainly understand the economics of not over applying it.
Great, thank you very much.
And then, Chairman, I did follow up to that email just real quick. With the installation of Rush Creek Reserve, or with the development of Rush Creek Reserve, we did plan for a sewer and water stub to City Park. So if you guys were out there last fall, there was some activity just on the south side of 10 there, and that was really stubbing across sewer and water. So whenever the city park moves forward, we can use those utilities, and it was an efficient. The timing worked out well. It was very efficient for us to get those there and cost effective, and so that will help the park's budget. There'll be a little bit of savings there that can go towards some fun stuff rather than just underground utilities that don't show up to the public. So that was a opportunistic situation that we took advantage of. So kudos to everyone involved with that. We have a great team.
Great, thank you. All right, Kevin, thank you very much for taking your time
Thanks,
tonight.
Kevin.
No problem. Have a nice evening, everybody.
Thanks.
Too.
All right, Matt, your turn.
Great, thank you.
And he's here.
And he's here.
Yes, great to see you all in person again. I can touch on the cybersecurity stuff, kind of starting off some of the questions that you had to follow up with what Jessica said. We do have criminal justice requirements that are over and above standard government data security stuff, so we have those in place. We get regular audits from the BCA for the criminal justice networks and how we're complying with that, both in hardware, software, and physical site security, and other things along those lines. As far as citywide, we actually contract with consultants for our IT needs, and they have a fairly robust security division, and they're pretty in tune with what's happening out in the cyber world. We're not immune, just like any organization is. We see the headlines, we're aware of it, and we're working on getting better with our plans. But a regular part of the work that CIT does, they do regular pen tests, they do maintain our firewalls, they do the employee testing. We have off-site backups and redundancies in place to hopefully if something catastrophic happens, either intentional or unintentional, that we should be able to get back up and running. So I think there's always room for improvement, but I think compared to other cities similar to ours, I think we're in a good spot right now.
Good.
And on to the police department stuff. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes. First of all, we're all still settling into our new remodel and trying to get situated and organized. Seems kind of never ending, but we're obviously, just like I think a lot of professions, we're facing recruitment and retention challenges in law enforcement. Some of the societal occurrences have kind of impacted law enforcement, I think, more than other professions as well. Looking at what can we do to be innovative, first of all, in taking care of and keeping our people, but also attracting and finding new talent as well for our organization. We've had a few people leave within the last couple of years. Most of you know Josh, Cody, Steve Cole have all separated from the department. But that's also brought with a lot of young new officers. So most of you know Clay by now. He's also functioning as our K-9 officer. They're doing a great job. He had an arrest last week where it was between a third and a half pound of meth from a a motorist in town that Zeke was able to find with Zeke's help. Josh Lawson is one of our new officers. Jacob Anderson, who was in here a little bit earlier, has joined the department. And Abigail Edstrom is our last full-time hire as well. So we have those 4 newer officers, and we are actually starting to close in on the process for replacing our detective. So our current application period for our detective process ends the end of this month, and then we'll keep moving forward on getting that position filled. So that kind of touches on our staffing. Relating to the email that I received, one of the questions obviously is relating to crime is obviously in the headlines, especially in Hennepin County, and what are some of the changes we're seeing and how does that impact us in Corcoran? So I guess starting with the, kind of the big picture, where are we at right now? Typically in the colder months, we'll see a downtrend in some of the more serious crimes, and we haven't. We're kind of holding steady, which is making us hold our breath for when spring and summer comes if we don't see some kind of intervention that we could still not be trending in the right direction. So in Hennepin County since 2018, murders have increased by 171%, robberies increased by 102%, and then the carjackings overall since 2018 or on the average have increased by 86%. So when you look at like homicides by number, in 2018 there were 45, in 2019 58, in 2020 there were 98, and in 2021 122. So from 2018, 45 homicides to 2021, 122 homicides. So it's not just kind of a, you never can it's hard to get a bead sometimes knowing whether it was a media narrative or something statistic, but these are some of the data that was pulled together by our Hennepin County crime analysts. So when they start looking at the murder rate per residence in 95, it was 9.98, which people remember back the days of 94 and 95, and I think this in 2021 we were at 9.52. So we're still not trending in a great direction. But when we look at arrests, I would say that the arrest data is up pretty significantly. So I would say the carjacking rates in Minneapolis since 2019 alone have increased by 540%, and 66% of those were juvenile offenders. So as we start seeing the increase in serious person crimes like homicide, carjackings, things like that, we've actually seen booking rates at the detention center and the jails dropping dramatically to the point where they're about half of what they were in 2018. So we're seeing the prosecution rates are for crimes of violence are within about 10% of where they have been. They haven't changed much despite the increase in crime. I mean, not the rates, I'm sorry, the number of person crimes prosecuted is about similar to where it was in the past years, within 10%, but the number of crimes has increased along with the, when we look across the board, that also correlates then to what we're seeing in detention. And what we're seeing is somewhat, I think what we're able to extrapolate and correlate from the data is there's not an intervention point ever, whether that's, something to kind of reset what's happening in those lives, because we're seeing a lot of repeat offenders. And that's somewhat of a product without having that intervention, whether that's some kind of a detention to put a life change in place, or it's some kind of a punitive incarceration. That's all within the course, but we're not seeing those things typically happen at the rates that they were, and because of that, we're starting to see a lot of the recidivism in those crimes. What does that mean for Corcoran? Those are not areas that we've typically experienced high rates of in Corcoran. Obviously, that's why a lot of us live out here. But what we are seeing is spillover from some of those communities, and so we're seeing an increase in, for instance, fleeing cases that are, somewhat the result of just how things are changing in the area overall. So I would say our department has had more pursuits. We're starting to see a little bit more of the I would say blatant activity, in that people are, there's an attitude shift culturally towards law enforcement. I think that we're starting to see some of the spillover here with just our interactions with the public. And I think our officers have done a tremendous job of keeping a professional interaction with people and making sure that they're that they're getting the job done, and I'm proud of the work that they're doing. So I think we have a great department, and I think we're continuing that with our new hires as well. So, but we're getting busier, and, it goes back to, as you see the department getting younger, we've also added 2 sergeant positions. So most of you know Pete Eckenberg, he was promoted to sergeant last year, and our new sergeant, Corey Andrus. And they're kind of bringing that not only supervision, but mentoring to some of those newer officers as they are working those night shifts and evening shifts, and making sure that we can kind of stay in front of some of those issues if they start coming up in Corcoran here. We're also seeing, overall staffing decline in the state of Minnesota, just among police departments. It's pretty dramatic. I've known outstate departments that literally had their job posted and had no applicants, or they would get 2 applicants for, after having it posted for a month that they couldn't hire. We've been fortunate that we've been seeing, not that bad, but we've seen a drastic reduction in the number of people getting into the workforce, and also those that are interested in changing locations. So that's kind of the summary on what we're seeing for crime and changes and how it relates to Corcoran. Related to COVID-19, obviously, as you've all seen, that there's a dramatic spike everywhere in Minnesota. For, what does that look like for context? The 2-week case rate is something that's typically tracked by by public health in Hennepin County. And at about the turn of the new year, we were at the 14-day case rate was around 40. And in January, we hit 243.5. So a pretty dramatic increase. Thankfully, we are starting to see a downturn, but I think most of us have all known, aside from the statistics we're reading, even anecdotally, people that we know with COVID has greatly increased over the past 2 months. So hopefully we're heading in the right direction there. It sounds like we are. A good portion of the state of Minnesota is vaccinated. I think we're at about 3.8 million have had at least 1 dose, and I think 3.6 million Minnesotans have received the full vaccine series, which I think has had a huge impact in mitigating the impacts of COVID as it has spread. It's reduced the number of hospitalizations. We are seeing an increase in hospitalizations just because the numbers are skyrocketing. But relative to the numbers of skyrocketing prior to the vaccinations, we're seeing the rate of hospitalization isn't quite as bad as it was, and I think that can be attributed to the vaccinations and the safety practices that people are starting to try and make a little more day to day. Of note, the Red Cross has noted that blood supply remains critically low, so if anyone's so inclined, that's one way that can help out with the pandemic is donating blood. So I'd be happy to take any questions that any of you guys have and try and offer any insight if I can help.
Tough job. The statistics you were sharing, you probably don't even have it, but what about Corcoran specifically, or Corcoran and the surrounding suburbs, Maple Grove, Medina, Rogers, things like that? Are we seeing the same spikes?
Yeah, especially in the West Metro communities. I know that Plymouth and Maple Grove are struggling pretty dramatically with some of the increases. Corcoran, I don't have our recent data. I think what we typically see is less of it being initiated here. We've had a couple of motor vehicle thefts, but we haven't had a spike of it or anything like that. But what we do see is because of motor vehicle thefts in neighboring communities, our pursuits go up, or we tend to get that more of the spillover type crime here, people with warrants,
Sure.
and those kind of things.
So people, maybe crimes are increasing, but it's not necessarily coming from our community, maybe, so
Right.
it's coming from other cities and just spreading everywhere, basically.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to
Okay.
qualify it for our community right now.
Okay, interesting.
You guys have data on Corcoran? Like you said, you don't have data on?
Yeah, we do track it. I don't have the city-specific crime data from last year, so we track all of the Part 1 and Part 2 crimes, which would be like, how the FBI classifies them. But anecdotally, our officers have a lot more calls for service. Part of that is population based, but also we're just, as a region, becoming busier. We've always been able to thinly staff our police department because we're helped by our neighboring communities and our neighboring communities help us. And now as that, just overall, as things are becoming busier, everybody's bandwidth to be able to help out has become less. So.
Well, thank you for your service. What can you say, you know? Yeah, I guess it all helps if we keep our garage doors closed and our cars locked and pay attention to the neighborhood, yeah.
Well, and as you guys know, we're, you know, our officers our men and women are just but a few people that, I mean, the biggest impact on the safety of the community is the residents and what you guys do to help us every day, day in, day out, to keep our neighborhoods and our communities safe. We want to, you know, if something looks out of line, we want to hear about it sooner than later. And we're, you know, we're partners in keeping a safe community with all of you, and I think you guys do the greater role. We're, you know, so often we're called there once things have gotten too far or things have, you know, gone bad, and we, as much as we can, we love to work on the front end. So, and you guys are the biggest part of helping us be there. So thank you for partnering with us, you know, not just as Parks and Trails, but as community members.
Yeah, I would just say we really appreciate, you know, I work at the stanchion, and I love when the guys come into the bar.
Great.
It's so nice, because you have that police presence, and it's not in a, you know, a threatening way. They're just there hanging out, and like, they were bowling on Turkey Bowling Day, and, you know, they come in and they just pop in, and I used to make fun of Pete because he would come in and always stand at the door with his hands in his, you know, his vest.
Yep.
But I appreciate their presence there so much, and like you said, getting in on the front end of it rather than waiting for it to get bad. I just think their presence there in general makes everything just take it down a notch. So we do appreciate that.
Great, thank you, and we appreciate it as well. Not all of our, you know, not all of my colleagues have as productive relationships with their entertainment businesses and things like that, so we appreciate, you know, businesses like the Stanchion that take a proactive role and recognize their role in the safety of the community, and we're grateful for the community we work in, and we talk, you know, we talk about that in the police department frequently, that, you know, given the state of how law enforcement is treated in some communities, our officers are really grateful to be working for this community and this group of citizens. So I think that appreciation certainly goes both ways.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
All right, unfinished business, we have none. New business, site plan.
Yes. So these slides were provided by Kendra. This should be pretty quick. We've got Eli and Kurt here as well from Right Hennepin. If we do have any questions that I can't answer because I don't know enough about it, or you guys just want to interrogate them, that's kind of your call. So we'll just get started. This is about the substation. It's going to be located off of 116 and Larkin Road, assuming everything goes according to plan. So it'll take the one lot and create one lot and two outlots for a new electric substation. It was originally in a different location. I believe it was originally planned for Shamrock, that area, but they're now coming back with a new spot. Here's another map to kind of show where it is. So Larkin and 116, like I said. And here's kind of a zoomed in look at it with regards to parks a little more. So this is going to be where the linear park is located, is that dark green proposed park line, kind of on the west side on the more zoomed in piece. We'll keep going. So the applicant is acquiring 4.37 acres from the existing 36.92 acre site. The proposed off-road trail isn't located within that 4.37, so I'll swing back here. You can kind of see it. I can get my mouse over there. There's that orange color kind of to the east a little more. That's the off-road trail. That's not within this area. However, the on-road trail, that is that red line going north and south, is in this section. So that's going to be the linear park.
It's linear.
So moving back, Like I said, it identifies an existing on-road trail on County Road 116. This is the proposed linear park running north and south, and it will provide trail connections to new civic and community spaces, provide safe pedestrian crossings throughout the southeast district. This is the one that runs in front of St. Therese eventually when that comes in too, if that makes it more familiar. This is a look at their site plan. So Outlot A would be the linear park, and then Outlot B would be the substation. Do we need a little longer to look at that? I think it should be in your packet as well, but it helps when it's bigger on the screen, So the park dedication required for the 4.37 acres being acquired is approximately 1.2 net acres, which is 28% of the net pre-development area. Outlot A is going to be 1.5 net acres, which would satisfy that 1.2. But wetlands on the site will impact the final park dedication calculations, which will be provided later. This is not quite that step, but it's not going to circle back. So this is kind of your guys' opportunity to either take the land or not. So staff recommendation is going to be to accept the 1.5 gross acres. The net acres will be determined in Outlot A as proposed by the applicant. If there's any questions I can help answer, I kind of went through that kind of quick. So, or if there's any questions that you guys have for them specifically, we can also go that route.
So lot 1 is where the actual substation will be,
Correct.
and then the linear park goes north and south, and it's that. What does that entail exactly, that linear park? Is that just a green space?
I believe it's just going to be like a trail and a grassy area.
It's really a wide trail with buffering between 160 and the trail. So it runs parallel to the road, but it is going to be it's going to be sort of visually separate.
Have some green space too.
And it's got some green space too.
I believe it was 35 feet wide.
Was that proposed with the St. Therese?
Yes, yep, yep.
And is this at the end of that or the beginning of it? Where would this be on this map?
So.
It's south of 10.
This would be where the substation is.
Okay. And then where is that? Where is
I don't
So that would be this,
This is kind of the closest I've got for
it'd be this block right here, that little square.
the very end of
Yep,
it?
and then that's the
Oh,
green space
okay,
that's
got
going
it.
in.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
So how high are the little tower thingies in the substation?
We'll have transmission towers, or we'll receive transmission towers of approximately 60 feet. There'll be roughly 5 to 7 poles in there. We have a substation just to the southwest corner of Larkin and 116.
Yeah, right.
With the growth of Corcoran, we're trying to make more space, and we can't do it where we're at. So we're relocating kitty corner across the road. Idea is to keep close to our current facilities the best we can, and then but what would be required, there would probably be 2 poles that'll span that park area coming to our property, and then there'll be 4 additional towers roughly in that area, in our substation itself.
So how many towers, Sean?
Roughly 6.
6 at 60
The
feet?
design isn't formally complete yet as far as how it connects into the existing stuff, so there may be, I just want to say 6 to 8, so I don't speak too lightly on it.
And can you ever add more, or is it just what you do to begin with?
What we do to begin with, we're building for what we consider the final build-out. We're making sure we don't have to come back and, not that we don't want to come see it, just we
Right.
want to make sure we're making a one-stop. We're doubling our substation and building out for the corporate's future. And it's actually tied to other facilities too, so.
So this is an additional facility as opposed to a replacement, the existing,
It's,
That was great.
it's at the end of the day, we would be replacing the old
oh, okay,
facilities with this.
yeah.
But from a timing standpoint, that's gonna be several years, we just can't flip it all at once.
Sure,
So,
okay.
at the end of the day, there will be probably a post of green boxes where we currently have our substation, where we tie it all back together in some kind of form of spaghetti and get it all distributed out through the city. We're seeing a lot of large growth to the south of our substation, and we need to get there because right now our facilities are being taxed in those areas.
Is there any kind of buffer around the substation?
Yeah, we have a.
Is that what Outlot A is?
Outlot A would be the linear park.
Oh, that
So
is.
we would take.
Yep, so that would be the park dedication.
But is there a buffer between the trail and the substation?
Yes, but I did not have that documentation. However, they do have kind of a mock-up.
Okay.
Gladly share that with, we have some more detailed,
And for those at home, unfortunately, I
Yeah.
have no means of
There's
showing
that-
you.
Oh,
that
yeah. I
dotted
see what
line
you're saying.
around.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know, it
you're
just
right.
looked like,
if you can pull up the drainage.
Maybe
one,
that is it.
The one with the wetland delineation on it, that.
Yeah,
Okay,
they can
sure.
point it
What
out.
Eli
Yeah.
has here to share with you is, there is some artist renditions to what it'll look like. Basically.
Candy, come on. Candy, come on and point out where it is on this map.
Yeah,
I suppose not. It's not on camera.
it's just that space, right?
Yeah.
It's 30 or 40 feet.
So what do we have?
Yes.
All we get to decide on is, what do we want the park, or do we want the money?
Okay.
Park.
just wondering.
There we go.
So these are the sort of artist mock-ups. So, yeah, yep, it's gonna be pretty heavily landscape, so.
And then that'll be the green space, or the
Yes, so that'll be that
trail.
trail
So
area.
this whole thing is Outlot A,
Correct.
Okay. right up to the tree line,
Yeah,
basically.
we will have some poles that, you'll have some aerial crossover here.
Going from the old substation?
Yep, and then we're gonna have some buried lines that come from this substation to the old, will probably be in Park Trail to, I mean, it's gonna be totally buried and not visual to.
Another thing to note is where the lines enter the substation, this vegetation is, I can't remember the exact numbers they gave us for max growth, but they're gonna be shorter than, you know,
Sure.
the surrounding
Trees
trees.
around your wires. all the
Exactly,
Hmm.
so.
Like you're supposed to
It'd
plant.
really be a bad example if your trees got too tall.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
That would be bad.
We've seen that happen before. It's kind of embarrassing.
Your trucks would be out there more than you would like.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So is the thought process for this linear park to continue moving south? Do we know that? Like,
Truthfully, I have not been super involved with the linear park, so I can't speak a lot to it.
Our involvement with our previous attempt to put the sub to the south, I believe that linear part of footage was in that.
As well, okay.
Yeah, so I'm guessing we're probably somewhere right now in the middle of where your linear park is.
Yeah,
Did you ask if it's going
If-
to
yeah.
still continue south?
yeah, so that
Because
that
without
was
the new
originally,
development down.
I mean, I'm assuming that would be the case, but.
That's all part of the downtown, new downtown plan, so, yeah.
Okay. So-
Which has been through several kind of iterations, kind of depending on, for a while they were thinking they were gonna re-engineer the county road
Oh,
right there. Now I think that is not gonna happen.
okay.
But it's all part of a pretty big scale for Corcoran,
Yeah.
long-range project.
I mean, it would probably make sense to take this over, otherwise we're gonna have a gap in our.
No, I think.
The only
seems
thing I
silly.
would say is that this is obviously not as valuable of land simply because there is a electrical substation there.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
if we didn't take the land, it would just be grass. Or would you?
If the park wasn't there, we'd move closer to the road.
Okay.
I mean, I think that would
be
the
the,
idea there for us, is we have to acquire that acreage for you guys.
Yeah, I get it, yeah,
And if we
yeah.
didn't have to do it to the east, it's economics on that one.
yeah, that makes sense.
I think it works well. I know that part of the issue was that 116 and County Road 10 is sort of an entryway to Corcoran, and having the substation right there is not exactly the look that a community that wants to stay sort of rural looking has, but, so it gives you a little extra distance to have the trail there. I think it serves both the city and right Hennepin really well to have the trail right there.
Well, visibility wise, that's a terrible intersection. I
It
mean,
is.
how many deaths have we had on that? You know, and to have, if you were to have the substation closer to the road, you would then have that vegetation closer to the road, and it would make it that much harder to see. Whereas if we have a trail there, the visibility will be better.
Yep, and Hennepin County's highway department has a chance to look at this also.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. If we were closer to the road, we would be doing some weird setbacks.
Well, yeah, because if you have the vegetation like you have planned in your landscape plan.
Yeah, we would not be that heavy or that border,
Right.
that right
This is an easy one.
Okay? The chair will accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to take the land.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to take land in lieu of cash?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are good. Thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
there. I'm happy to do it.
I think Corcoran is well served by Right Hennepin.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Yeah,
to
we
say,
like
I've
you.
loved Right Hennepin right from the day we moved in. So,
Us as well.
If for some reason something would come back in future meetings, back to you guys, and you have questions, Jessica has our information.
Contact information, great,
Okay.
thank you.
We'd rather address the questions directly with you guys as opposed to dealing with some of the maybe rumor mills or whatever.
Mhm,
The project, so.
Good, thank
Great.
you.
Probably should have abstained from voting since I'm according to this.
We're all clients, aren't we? All right, active planning applications for edification. Questions on those?
And this section would normally be a lot easier with one of the council members or Mayor McKee here, but we do have Councilmember Nichols on the Zoom call if need be. So I might defer to him if you guys do have questions.
Good evening, everyone.
Muted to prepare.
Yeah, we're looking at all the city council. So, I think the blue is what's
In
new.
case we need him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Nichols, I appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
This list got smaller, which is kind of nice. Thank you.
Said that last time, too.
Yeah, oh. Thanks for pointing that out. It
Sorry. It just keeps getting
keeps
smaller.
getting smaller.
Accomplishing so much.
Jeremy, is there anything that you would like to point out on that list to us? Anything that you would like to highlight?
I guess I would call attention to Bear's third edition, just for the sake that it appears to be progressing through the approval process relatively quickly. They're planning on a total of 7 phases. This is the third that just got approved, and as each phase is approved, we get closer and closer to that neighborhood park in the Tavera development being ready to begin on. The trails that will be entailed in that project are also, I think, pretty important because they're going to service our portion or the initial part of our portion of the Diamond Lake Regional Trail System. So from a parks perspective, I think the faster that development proceeds, the better off our park infrastructure is going to be.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments there? All right, Recreation Supervisor update.
Yes, so I've been busy. Not that that's different from any other time I come to you guys. I've been monitoring baseball registrations. Just a reminder, any registration that comes through, I do have to actively look at to make sure that people are residents. If they say they're residents, I mean down even to, I check the address to make sure that they're not lying. I don't think people understand how seriously I take that, because I do.
Serious matter.
It is. I mean, it's the difference of $10 in a registration, and I think that people who are not residents should have to pay that $10. We have it in place for a reason.
Glad to hear you do that.
I take my job very seriously. Additionally, I've been overseeing the ice rink attendance, so if they have any issues or scheduling or what have you, I am the one that they contact. Recently, we had a key break off in one of the locks. They called me, I called the officer that was on duty, and they called Public Works. So it was a nice little adventure on a Friday afternoon.
I work at a door company, so if you do door stuff and lock stuff, let me know.
Well, so they went out there with a torch and it was a whole ordeal.
Oh, brother.
Yes, yes. I don't know if you guys want to see me with a torch. Trust me, you don't, but, so that was one of them. Otherwise, I will also be overseeing a program coordinator this summer. They will be the ones kind of supervising the youth athletics, and Tom has been so kind as to assist me with interviews this week. So we just went through the first round. The second round is going to be next week. I've heard back from one of them. I have one other person who I am waiting to hear back to schedule their interview, but that'll be with myself, and then Interim City Administrator Bizey, which you heard from earlier. In addition to that, I've answered a handful of questions about summer soccer already, because registration opens in less than 2 months and people get really excited. So otherwise, the usual social media, your guys' packets. Additionally, it's not super public yet, but it will be. I am 98% sure that we have received yet another Hennepin County Youth Sports Grant. So another $10,000. This one would go towards a gator, which would be very helpful, because if any of you have seen me out in the fields, I hoof it. So I would not wish that upon my program coordinator, so we are working to get them a gator, but they do not have to hoof it, because if an emergency does strike, it's a lot easier to get somewhere faster with a means of transportation.
Do you park that in the rink? Where
There's,
do you keep that?
so there's a variety of spots. In previous years, when I had a side-by-side, I was able to park it in one of the, down in the pinwheel. There's a shed down there. Otherwise, there's a shed underneath, or like a garage area underneath the press box, right off of 10. So that's where the painter is currently, but you can't really drive that around from place to place very easily.
It would fit in there?
It should, yep. Currently, there's a mower and a painter in there, but,
Move those to the.
Yep. We make room. So that's another exciting, I added it to my tally of donations last year. Since technically it was the fall grant. And then staff is currently in discussion on what to, if anything, go for spring. Just because if the money's there, I don't know why we wouldn't try and get something to help out funding, so.
Do you have, with any of that funding, is there any talk about for the courts to either fix those or destroy them, or
We're kind
all
of,
them, or what?
we're kind of waiting with like the city park project,
Yeah.
just because the goal is this fall to go for the $300,000 grant for the facility, so then things would really get moving. We're still accepting feedback online with the survey, and then I'm working to get something scheduled with a couple of the HOAs, and then get a meeting at City Hall before one of the Parks and Trails meetings to get feedback in person as well, just so that those that can't make it at one of the HOA ones or don't know how to use a computer very efficiently have the opportunity to voice their opinions. So, kind of no, because we would have to go for the fall grant, but we would rather go for a big fall grant than just one specific to the courts.
Have you guys thought about just closing them so that somebody doesn't get hurt?
I think we were in discussion on it, but nothing really came of it. Any other questions?
How many registered for baseball, softball?
When I checked last, and I should have gotten the
About-
percentages.
about, yeah.
I want to say it was 77 for coach pitch, 62 for machine pitch, and then 63 for T-ball. So we're a little low on T-ball, but I would anticipate a pretty big push between now, the end of registration, and then generally people will register late, and I go, yeah, okay, we can get you in. But we're almost at a cap for coach pitch, so that's exciting.
Nice. Nice, good.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
busy,
thank you.
busy person. The two candidates, the candidates we interviewed were both just fine, you know, yeah. I think that, everybody we would talk to would be of some help, so that's a good thing, yeah. All right. City Council report.
Councilmember Nichols, I've got you pinned, so you should be good to go.
All right, very good. Let me see if I can figure out how to switch my camera back on here. There we go.
There you go.
Hello again, everybody. So we already talked about the approval of the latest edition on Tavera. The last two meetings we've had a couple other discussions. I unfortunately wasn't able to go to the second meeting in January, so I can't speak specifically from personal experience to the issues on that part of the agenda. I do know that the Comprehensive Housing and Affordability Act that we talked about at the last Parks and Trails Commission that Mayor McKee brought up has proceeded to committee in the State House, where it has not yet been introduced in the Senate. So we're continuing to watch that very closely. Council gave staff direction to prepare a contingency ordinance to give us time to plan and adjust the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances should that legislation look like it's going to pass. So we're ready to take the actions that are still within our power to make sure that we can keep the integrity of the comprehensive plan intact should we need to. At the February 10th meeting, we had, I would characterize it as a hearty debate on the urban conservation subdivision ordinance. There was some concern expressed by some members of the council that they didn't trust that we would get high-quality applications that we would be happy with. So there was a desire to revisit alternate mechanisms to achieve the same goals of retaining open space and natural features as much as possible. We discussed trying to revise how we use the PUD and negotiate more strongly for those same kinds of outcomes. I think could also revisit a few of the alternate approaches that we debated over the summer, like a overlay district to protect zones of high natural interest in the comprehensive plan. We also need to better equip staff for negotiations so they know what council wants to see and what we're willing to entertain, what we're not willing to entertain. So we'll be debating that further, I think, in the meetings ahead. We're especially looking forward, I think, to getting some feedback from the Planning Commission and also from you folks at that joint session that's coming up in a couple weeks here. I also made a note here. I wanted to thank Kathy Drivas for the suggestion about establishing an understanding of how we want to name parks. I think that also extends to some degree to roads, in that major civic roads could potentially have alternate naming conventions beyond City Center Drive and the more generic names that are often used by cities. It would be interesting, I think, to try to put together some kind of a guidance for how we want to see those named. I know we do have a street naming convention. It would be interesting, I think, to look at something like that for parks and trails as well.
And I believe that we did at one point when we were looking at wildflower, and I think part of the reason that we landed on wildflower was because there are a lot of wildflowers out there. So it's just a matter of establishing what that looks like for future.
Yeah, I like wildflower as a name. I think that was a very good choice.
Oh, good.
I opted for Bean Park, if we remember.
All right, any questions for Councilman Nichols?
Jeremy, can you just give us a quick summary of the Housing Affordability Act? I've heard a little bit about it. I know it was in the council meeting. I was just wondering if you could give us a under 5-minute summary of that.
Well, I'm guessing that it's going to evolve significantly both in committee and in negotiations within the House. The broad outlines that are, I think, especially concerning to Corcoran, it puts in certain density requirements that become state statutory requirements for communities that are in the 7-county metro area. So currently in our comp plan, we cite a 3 to 5 unit per acre density for our low density residential areas. In any area that is serviced by municipal sewer and water, if the current draft were to be approved, the minimum would be 5 units per acre. So you wouldn't be able to have low density development. That would correlate to lot sizes around 4,000 square feet if you're doing single family, so more like a South Minneapolis kind of a home density, or the use of apartments or other multifamily type design structures. So the kinds of development that we would be able to entertain would change. The level of open space that we could retain would also be drastically reduced. I think those are some of the major concerns. There are also limitations on how much of a park dedication could be required. We currently target 15%. It would go down to a maximum of 10% with that state law if it were to be passed. So there's a variety of other measures that would be potentially valuable in terms of the ability to have more flexibility to assess for street improvements and things like that. But overall, I think the negative impact on how we want our city to develop would counterbalance those advantages. So I'm really hoping to see it not pass. And if it does pass, we will need to drastically regroup and revise a lot of our standards and requirements.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Jeremy. It's good to see you. We'll see you next week at the work session before the council meeting.
That will be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. All right, Garden Club report. Well, I actually have a little bit of a Garden Club report.
Okay, excellent. Something to look, give us
Something
some
to look forward
hope.
to. Yeah, we're, as part of the Wright County Soil and Water Conservation District tree sale, they also sell wildflower plugs. And so I would like to spend part of the Memorial Park Fund on a bunch of new wildflowers. We could get 72 plants for about $135, which is, I assume they're quite small, but
But they grow.
But they grow.
Yeah.
That's the-
As far as they go.
And that.
Get a little diversity in
Little more diversity, and it's a
Excellent.
nice selection. And I think the Garden Club would be up for getting those in the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pardon?
Yes.
It's fire.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year for that, but yeah.
So,
We'll do it.
this would be back in the early days, in the olden days, we actually had a gardener who worked part-time, and we would pay her, she would submit a bill, and then we'd pay that out of the park fund. And a couple of years ago, we bought some perennials over at Maple Grove
Yeah.
Nursery.
Grove Nursery.
Grove Nursery.
Yeah.
But
It's fun.
not often do we take money out, so I checked with Jessica to do it the right way, and she said that it's a small amount, it'd be $135. If we would pass a motion to approve it, then they would just, because it's a small amount, they would honor that and get ready to pay it, so.
Okay. Do we need? I'll make a motion to approve the 135
135, twice 65.
towards the pollinator garden
Yep.
plugs.
Yep. Good, thank you. And any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I think we're expecting good things out of the Memorial Garden this year. We planted perennials a couple of years ago, and they should start showing off. Yeah, yeah. So. All right, Park Dedication Fund.
I would like to make a note on this. I circled back. I don't have any information on your bond question, so I might just give you Maggie's email and have you ask her directly, because that might be a tad bit over my head, to be totally honest. However, the interest just has not been applied yet, so that's why.
It's there, it just isn't on the.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
good. I just don't want to miss out on our little interest.
I was also told that it's very low. So, I don't have a number for you, they just haven't had a chance. With utility billing, everything is just, I mean, they're getting hammered right now. We just got a new software in too. So, not to flex, but we are now pretty much paperless for claims. So we can do it all from the computer now, guys.
Nice.
So, big moves, it's just taking a little while to keep all the plates spinning.
I'll be patient.
So just to look at that, $1.4 million, almost $1.5 million in our fund, which 20 years ago when we started this seemed like a huge amount. Now it's just, we could burn through that so quickly. It is not, and when you start moving dirt and redoing tennis courts, and it would just absolutely disappear. We're not rich. I wish we were, but I think that it is a very modest fund at this point in Corcoran's development.
Selective with our.
We have to be, and I think we've been doing that. We need to do some stuff. I mean, I think COVID has gotten in our way that we're not going to be moving any dirt at City Park this year. I think it's a real disappointment for me. But.
Yep, we were doing really well before COVID.
Before COVID.
Darn COVID.
Kind of messed things up, so.
Yeah.
But we will have some plans in place this summer, get some bids, be ready to move. A year from now, we will just be waiting for them to move equipment onto the site so that they can start doing some stuff. Yeah, that'll be better.
You will also notice it is lower than last meeting, and that's only because that 100,000 was on there. I believe the 45,000, so the 100,000 was from the J.C.'s for the splash pad. Then there might have been a 45,000 amount. I don't know if that was on your guys's. I caught it before it went to the printer, and Maggie had taken that off because it's not technically park dedication since it's allocated to a specific project. So, you have 145,000 towards City Park,
Okay, that's good.
which is a start.
That is a start. That is a start.
I'm sorry?
You put a little note down there.
That's the plan as we get closer.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to lose 100 grand.
Other business announcements? Alicia, thank you for being on the commission.
Yeah.
Having your position in the community is unique because you live right there and you work in Corcoran, and your perspective has always been really valuable. Has been really valuable. I hope that you will continue to track parks and trails and lend your voice and offer your opinion. Yeah, well, absolutely. That's kind of, people have been complaining about the tennis courts since I started. They never heal themselves, so we need to get that taken care of. Absolutely, yeah. All right, commission liaison schedule.
The 24th is also going to be TBD. Obviously, I did not take Alicia's name off.
Oh, yeah.
I just didn't catch it, so.
Okay. And I hope that we can all,
Well, and if you don't have somebody, I can still do it.
I don't know that technically you can if you're not on the commission.
you're always welcome to go, but you probably can't. Not that anybody ever asked.
I mean, feel free to attend, no one's stopping you. You can attend that and then come back but, and I know we did have one applicant, we're leaving the application process open still because we would still have one open seat. And then I believe at the next meeting, they will be appointing that applicant, assuming that they see fit. I don't know that I can release the name entirely.
You still need one or two?
One.
We have-
Well, after that, assuming this person gets
Right.
appointed.
And they're appointed by the city council, so it's not our,
I'm just trying to think.
yeah. But, you know, if you know somebody in
Yeah, I'm
town
trying
with,
to think about it.
yeah,
Actually, I do have somebody in mind, but I'll,
you know, it's,
My neighbors.
it's that Thursday night every month,
yeah.
month after month after month.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you have to be able to be on a video camera, you have to be willing to
Yeah.
show up to
Okay.
go through an agenda. And,
Not be out of town.
not be out of town, yeah.
Not be sailing.
Yep. So, but it's a rewarding job.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And sometimes you get awarded.
sometimes you do.
Yeah, some of us do.
All right, anything else for our meeting tonight? Okay, we'll receive a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I never did that. I just.